The Merchant of Venice is a play written by William Shakespeare at the end of the 16th century. It is considered a romantic comedy, although its most famous scenes are dramatic. The play is set in Venice in 1600. It starts with Bassanio, a young impoverished nobleman who wants to win Porzia's heart. Porzia is a beautiful and wealthy heiress living in Belmont. Before dying, her father established that each of Porzia's suitors must choose of 3 caskets made of gold, silver, and lead. Only the one that will find Porzia's portrait in the correct casket will be able to marry her. In order to pay his courtship, Bassanio needs 3,000 ducats, so he asks them to his beloved friend Antonio, a rich merchant. Antonio agrees, but unfortunately, his ships are traveling through the seas with his whole wealth in them. That's why the 2 men borrow the money from Shylock, a usurer that because of his religion and profession has always been mistreated by the citizens of Venice. Shylock accepts to give them the money, but on one condition. If they don't pay on the appointed day, he will cut a pound of flesh from Antonio's body. So the agreement is done and everything seems to go right.
Bassanio opens the right casket, the lead one, and gets married with Porzia. His friend Graziano gets married with Porzia's best friend, Nerissa. Even Shylock's daughter, Jessica, gets married, with Lorenzo, a friend of Bassanio, against her father's will. After the marriages, Antonio discovers that his ships have sunk, which means that he can pay his debt to Shylock. At this point, Shylock is determined to get Antonio's flesh, considering that the expiration date of the deal was passed. The 2 go at the court. Suddenly, Bassanio arrives and brings with him 6,000 ducats given by Porzia to pay the loan, but Shylock refuses. All of a sudden, a young doctor of law arrives with his assistant, and thanks to his rhetoric, saves Antonio and reverses the situation. He says that the contract allows Shylock only to remove the flesh, not the blood of Antonio. So, Shylock wants to accept Bassanio's offer, but it's too late. The law of Venice imposes that, as a Jew who has tried to kill a citizen, Shylock has to give his property, half to the government and half to Antonio, leaving his life at the mercy of the Duke. The Duke pardons Shylock's life. Antonio decides that, as punishment, Shylock has to sign an agreement saying that when he dies, all his money will go to Jessica and Lorenzo. Also, Shylock must convert to Christianity, so Shylock is now a broke man.
In the meanwhile, Antonio and Bassanio want to reward the doctor before he goes, and the only thing that he wants is the ring, which is a Porzia's present and represents their marriage trust. Bassanio is persuaded by Antonio and gives it to the doctor. The same thing happens between Graziano and the doctor's assistant. Finally, that night, everyone gets home to Belmont. Porzia and Nerissa get angry because their husband gave their rings away. At a certain point of the discussion, Porzia shows the rings and explains that she and Nerissa were the young lawyer and the assistant who saved Antonio. Also, she's got a letter that says some of Antonio's ships have come home with cash after all. At the end of the play, everyone is happy, at the exception of Shylock. They play with many themes as mercy, justice, revenge, love of friends, and between man and woman. Some of the main themes are religious, prejudice, and intolerance. Almost all the Venetians express extreme intolerance of Shylock and the other Jews in Venice. It is possible to argue that Shakespeare is promoting the idea that Jews are naturally malicious and inferior to Christians because of Shylock's ultimate refusal to show any mercy at all, and as a result his pitiful end. On the other side, Shakespeare may be actually criticizing the prejudices because some dialogues prove that Shylock's anger and desire for revenge are the result of fear of abuse and mistreatment. The main setting is Italy. The play is set in Venice and Belmont. Venice is presented as a city of trade, of business deals, and of conflicts and intrigues. It represents the world of persistent materialism. Belmont, on the other hand, is the home of Portia and the romantic city of peace and love, a contrast to Venice. Nowadays, Belmont is Montebelluna.
Antonio is always sad and melancholy. He's very generous and has a warm regard for his friend and kinsman Bassanio. For him, he would sacrifice even his life. His altruism is in strange contrast with his intense dislike of Jews. Portia is a rich, beautiful and intelligent woman. She has a good sense of humor and the ability to think clearly and quickly. She goes against the stereotypes of women and becomes the heroine of the play. Bassanio is in love with Portia and has a very strong friendship with Antonio. He has a good nature which puts him in trouble, in particular at the end of the play when he gives his ring to the young doctor of the law.
Shylock is one of the most complex characters of The Merchant of Venice. His hate for Antonio and his relationship with his daughter and his servant describe him as a greedy, miserly and vengeful man. But yet, there is a Shylock monologue that is one of the most famous speeches of the play, in which we have a different point of view of the character. Shylock is talking to Salerio and Solanio, two Christian men, friends of Antonio, who are making fun of him because his daughter Jessica has run away from home with a Christian man. During the speech, Shylock makes it clear that his hate for Christian is born of their many mistreatments. So 1 pound of Antonio's flesh is not only a way of revenge to Antonio, but also a way to revenge to Christian society and to destroy Christians' racism on Jews. Shylock goes on to point out that Christians and Jews are unified by common humanity, despite their different religions. So is Shylock a victim, a villain, or some combination of both?
Hath not a Jew eyes? Hath not a Jew hands? Organs? Dimensions? Senses? Affections? Passions? Fed with the same food? Hurt with the same weapons? Subject to the same diseases? Healed by the same means? Warmed and cooled by the same winter and summer as a Christian is? If you prick us, do we not bleed? If you tickle us, do we not laugh? If you poison us, do we not die? And if you wrong us, shall we not revenge? If we are like you in the rest, we will resemble you in that.